There is a spare seat at the Jewish Passover table set aside for Elijah, and if renewed day after day's recent posts are right, that seat may have been reserved for a Gentile all along.
That tension between who belongs and what the rules actually require runs through everything we're covering today, reassessing familiar biblical figures and what modern physics might quietly have to say about the nature of God.
Let's start with the characters we thought we knew.
The central question here is whether the rules for belonging to God's people were ever as fixed as they appeared, and when, if ever, they changed.
The anchor post frames it around Elijah, and the argument is blunt. Before Elijah, every convert had to enter Israel and keep the law. Rahab, Ruth, Uriah the Hittite, all came in, all kept it. Then something shifts.
The post puts it plainly. From this point onwards, you'll find everybody who comes into the land of Israel, who belongs and joins themselves to the Israelites, they all fall in with the law of Moses and obey the law of Moses, until Elijah.
That word until is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because after Elijah, the widow of Zarephath keeps no law, Naaman gets no circumcision, and Jonah's 120,000 Assyrians are not asked to observe the Sabbath. The covenant framework has quietly been replaced.
The post argues the mechanism is visible at Mount Horeb. God had been in the earthquake, wind and fire when Moses was there. That was the covenant moment with Israel. When Elijah stands on the same mountain, God is explicitly not in those things. The old covenant, the post says, is finished.
Which makes the transfiguration considerably less straightforward than law and prophets. If Elijah was himself a Gentile, the post argues Tishbite means immigrant or sojourner, not a town, then Moses and Elijah at that mountain represent two distinct groups, those saved under law and those saved under faith.
The companion post on Noah's flood picks up exactly that thread. Noah is described in Hebrews 11 as one who became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. And the post explicitly cross-references the Elijah argument to make the point that faith-based belonging predates the law, as well as outlasting it.
Noah also gets reread here as a type of Christ, inheriting Adam's curse so his parents wouldn't have to, delaying his own family until that role was fulfilled. The flood itself is reframed not as destruction, but as salvation. The same water that killed the wicked bore Noah up.
The summary post on the Elijah material makes that theological pivot crisp. Faith and grace had replaced law, and the Gentile converts after Elijah are the evidence. And then there is the post on wicked women of the Bible, which applies the same sceptical rereading to Bathsheba, Potiphar's wife, and the prophetess Noadiah, asking whether the labels these women carry actually survive scrutiny.
The pattern across all of it is the same move. Take a figure the tradition has settled and ask what the text actually says.
Onto the nature of God itself, and what physics might add to the conversation. The post God is light takes the scriptural claim literally and asks what modern physics implies, noting that in the footsteps of Newton, Maxwell, Einstein and Bohr, light is timeless and spaceless, as is our God.
So the physics is not decoration, it is the argument that the properties of light discovered over 4 centuries quietly describe attributes theology had already assigned to God.
The post on whether Jesus mentioned hell connects here. It argues the concept of eternal punishment is absent from the Old Testament, and that the misreading comes from translating Hebrew and Aramaic terms through a later framework, a framework built perhaps on a different picture of divine judgment than the texts themselves support.
What stays with me is how consistent the method is, whether it's Elijah's ethnicity or the word translated hell. The argument is always go back to what the language actually says.
And the stakes are real. Who belongs? What judgment means? What God's nature actually is? These are not small questions.
Next time, perhaps the answers get even more unsettling.